Because YouTube is more broken than ever, if you want to see more Final Fantasy VII Remake, Kingdom Hearts, and The Legend of Zelda content, I'd really appreciate it if you can hit the bell after subscribing. That way you'll never miss another video again. Okay, so it's raining pretty hard outside, so let's hope it doesn't knock the power out or anything like that. But I'm over here just finally getting through some homework, looking at Channelytics and all that stuff, and I see that you guys really enjoyed that non-scripted video I had did with Prodigy XCD, so I really do want to thank you guys so much for that support, because a lot of the times, most of you guys are not new to me or anything like that. I do a lot of scripted content here, but for this particular video, as you can tell by the title, I feel like it's so controversial that I feel like a script won't cut it in this situation. Is the Master of Masters in the Kingdom Hearts series actually Sora? You guys have seen my Identity Crisis video. You guys know how I think by now, but in that video I did say I would make a video for it, and that's what this video is. Now, a couple days ago, as you guys might recall, I did end up making a community tab poll regarding this topic, just because I really am interested in what my community specifically is thinking about this particular topic. So with that, I did ask that question about a day or so ago, and I really wanted to see what you guys thought, and most of you guys who interacted with the post did end up leaving a type of response. I did end up responding to some people, but I did want to highlight some here and there because there definitely was a good amount of responses. So I didn't respond to everybody, but the ones that definitely seemed like they had some thought put into it, besides this Titus one, I did really, I was interested in what I saw. So I did mainly want to just highlight some of those with you guys today. So let's bring up a couple ones that may not necessarily be on here, but was something I definitely wanted to bring up with all the speculation, especially after finding out, that Xigbar was Lushu this entire time. It has people thinking that the Master of Masters, another character we don't know their identity for, may be somebody closer than we think. Thanks to Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, we were told that the Master of Masters specifically told Lushu that when he was young, he did not actually have a master to train him. So of course he did obviously end up becoming a Keyblade Master. He did it all on his own, which kind of separates him in a different kind of way than Sora. Some people would use the argument that, well, Sora didn't have a master and the Master of Masters says he didn't have a master. This could definitely be implying that, yeah, this is him. But when you really think about it, it's not that Sora didn't necessarily have a master. He kind of did in a way when you really think about it. It wasn't necessarily in the same kind of relationship as, Aqua, Terra, and Ventus with Ericus, but Master Yen Sid has been guiding Sora since KH2, and he's done a pretty dang good job on it. He's been keeping them all in line, and he's even the one who provided their Mark of Mastery exam. So in a way, I think a teacher would have to be someone who would be able to authorize that kind of test. So I wouldn't necessarily call Sora as someone who didn't have a master, but I would definitely say that Yen Sid is enough to count against something that the Master of Masters probably didn't even have. Another point I often hear too is that he's likely going to be Sora from an alternate universe, because when you really think about it, if they actually did do that route and say it is Sora but from an alternate universe, I would prefer it to that than be Sora from the future necessarily, primarily because we already have a mindset of what Sora is like in our current world line. But to see a Sora who went through different adventures and took things a different way than the one we have, he could have became a drastically different character. He had a completely different upbringing. All these things. He may be Sora, but he's not our Sora. So in a way, it wouldn't bug me too much. So again, if they had to make Sora the Master of Masters, this would probably be a way I would prefer rather than making him just Sora from the future. It would, in a way, kind of just undermine any development Sora has had throughout this entire series, just because inevitably this is what he's going to be like when he's older. And that kind of sucks, because it kind of just goes to show, okay, well, what did we just do this almost 20-year-long journey with Sora for, just for him to become this? It would just kind of undermine his character, and I really feel Nomura wouldn't do that to Sora. And like I implied before, and if you keep up with Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, then you obviously know that there are different world lines within the Kingdom Hearts series. It's nothing new, it's no secret. So in a way, you could say, well, yeah, that is a possibility. That's 1 point for Team Sora being the Master of Masters. But in all honesty, in those different world lines, we have no knowledge of anything that happens beyond that of the time of Union Cross. So whatever's going on during Union Cross in that world line, we know nothing about what happens going on in the future of that world. We only know what's been going on in our world line, where, you know, the Foretellers fought and had the Keyblade War, you know, and created what we know now as the Keyblade Graveyard. That's what we know. So there's no real evidence to point that the Master of Masters is from this other world line and that he's actually Sora. There's literally no evidence to prove that. It's something I know is a cool thought, but there's a difference between being a cool thought and having actual evidence that the series provides, you know, to lead us to that conclusion. But those were just a few ones that I really wanted to point out, because whenever I upload a Yozora or Master of Masters video in particular whatsoever, these are kind of comments I always get, so I did want to address them first and foremost, because I feel like they were the heaviest hitters. Now, there was a couple interesting ones that I definitely saw throughout the community tab posts that I was referring to earlier, and one I'm going to highlight here is Gampero Fushi. I apologize if I butchered your name. I very much apologize. I apologize for anybody if I mispronounced your names here, but I'm going to do my best. But Gampero says here, because of the Unicross cutscene where he talks with Lucio about having fought in a Keyblade War when he was a kid, he also says there were other Keyblade wielders among him. The Keyblade design can be related to that of Sora, but we don't know if the Master is actually responsible for the way the Keyblade looks. In fact, the weapon is never mentioned in Key, Unchained Key, Unicross, or back cover. We also know that his eyes are blue, but that's not really an important point because 50% of Kingdom Hearts characters have blue eyes and the other 50% has yellow eyes. I can also see Sora's tendency to act both silly and serious, especially in KH3. These are the most important reasons, but I think there are also other things that I can remember right now that lead me to believe that he could be Sora. Now, I actually saw this earlier this morning as I planned to record this video today, and I did go ahead and revisit some Unicross cutscenes just to fact check things Gampero here was saying. And there was a few things that I definitely wanted to bring up here that I did end up responding to, so I'm going to read through that here. And I did mention that I felt like he was only really including the details that supported his specific argument, which most people tend to do when you're making a theory in general. For example, when the Master of Masters talks about the Keyblade War, he talks about having gone on for years and saying technically that it even rages on as they speak, but will end soon, referring to the Keyblade War the foretellers will find themselves in, what we saw going to inevitably happen thanks to back cover. And yeah, the Keyblade has had no mention in any of the key plots, so I doubt that means anything in regards to Sora being the Master of Masters, especially since the Master of Masters doesn't even wield that Keyblade, so I'm not really sure what the connection there would be. And this is one main point I really found, because people tend to use this kind of comment a lot, especially since KH3. So I started responding, and I think saying Sora can be silly and serious can be said about 98% of the entire cast of this series. Axel Lee, he has many silly and many serious moments as well. Same with Roxas, Shion, and Riku too. So if you use the kind of mindset of being silly and serious as a way to pin this character as this character, with that kind of mindset, that would imply any of these people could be the Master of Masters too. And one thing many people miss is the Master of Masters' body language. His body language doesn't really equal to that of any of the current characters in the series, not even Demix, like people like to say. When KH3 was just coming out, people were relentless saying that Demix was actually the Master of Masters, with no evidence to really point him with that whatsoever. And honestly, if you wanted to get technical with it, I really think his movements are a lot more stiff than the Master of Masters are. Even in Kingdom Hearts 3, I know some people would try to say, okay, well, that could just be from limited hardware, from older games and stuff like that, like KH2. But even in KH3, while the Master of Masters movements are much more animated and joyous, regardless of his tone of voice, I don't feel that his body language really equals to that of what the Master of Masters has. It just doesn't really make that much sense to me, even if you wanted to get technical with it. I think the biggest one that I really wanted, that really made me say I gotta respond to this comment, was the silly and serious act of Sora. And no disrespect to Gampero, thank you so much for leaving a response. I really do appreciate that, as it definitely added to this video. But I really did want to highlight that just because this person is not the only person who thinks this. This is very many people in this community all have similar thought process when it comes to determining who the Master of Masters really is. There's another comment here from Connor. He says, I definitely think so, especially future and adult Sora. And there was no real reasoning behind it, so that's why I was curious and asked what makes you think so. And they said because in Remind, when the master says his name, Xehanort makes a shocked face, and why would he do that unless he knows it's someone familiar? Now, I feel like the translation in this scene is kind of blown out of proportion, so I don't really think that is a reasoning to why it could be Sora, because specifically, as you can see in my response here, but that was to a young Xehanort who hasn't met Sora yet, as that was a flashback and not actually going on during the events of Kingdom Hearts 3. And even if that young Xehanort has met Sora already in Dream Drop Distance, he still wouldn't remember Sora, as he even said in that game that he will lose his memories of what happened in this adventure when he travels back to his own time. So I don't see how it being Sora would trigger a reaction in him, as if what I'm saying makes any sense whatsoever. So that's just another point that I really wanted to bring up, because I've seen this specific example numerous times before. And I guess you could say that's a lack of clarity on the game itself that kind of brings on these kind of speculations, because again, shout out to you, Connor, it was not, baseless whatsoever. There was reasoning, behind this. So because that theory isn't really baseless, again, that'd be another situation to where I would, again, blame the game in a sense for a lack of clarity. But those were just some reasonings I wanted to bring up that the community generally thinks. I personally think the Master of Masters is his own completely unique character. And I think this primarily because a lot of these characters are Nomura's children, man. I highly doubt he wants to risk ruining a character in a way that, especially with Sora being the Master of Masters, in a way I feel like it would undermine his character, because regardless of what you may think, the Master of Masters has done many things that wouldn't really be considered good, especially pinning all of his disciples to really end up fighting each other, causing a war, making bunches of people to end up losing their lives. So, I mean, you kind of can't defend that, regardless of whether you think the master is actually evil or not. But I really want to know what you guys think. Not everybody, of course. I mean, we got over 8,000 people subscribed. I want to see what you guys think. Do you guys think that the Master of Masters is actually Sora? Let me know down below. Is there something I missed? Am I incorrect about something? I tried to fact check anything I mentioned here in this video before actually saying it, so we should be Gucci in that department. But maybe you guys interpret a scene a bit different than I do. Any of those things. If you have a friend who had a really good theory about this, share this video with them. If you have anybody who you think the Master of Masters is Sora, and you see KingdomAce over here, knocking down theories left and right, send this video to him, man. What's up? Go ahead and do that. And if you're new and haven't already, and this is the first video you've seen from me, hello, my name is KingdomAce. You can also call me Jordan if you'd like. KingdomAce a lot, type out, I understand. If you'd like to, you can check out some of my other videos as well, or follow me on social media. We have a Discord server that is over 300 people, and I really do appreciate all the love and support you guys have been giving me. I've been streaming pretty frequently on the channel now, getting some Zelda content in there, and I know you guys were really supportive about me starting college again and doing the whole Zelda thing on the channel now as well. We're really working hard trying to make sure the content is good, and I'm really going to continue doing my best. I appreciate you guys, all the support. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you want to see more content from me as well, make sure you hit that bell after subscribing. It will definitely make sure you never miss another video ever again. So thank you guys so much for watching. My name is KingdomAce, and remember, my warriors of courage, to stay strong, stay beautiful, and to always look skyward.